And I think he went east near the rock pile or something, then headed back for Point Tree.
That was the only way we could get out of there. See, we were on we started out on the north side of the mountain. We ended up coming down on the south side, and it was walled in all the way around. So we had to go back to the northwest, up toward Laos, and we were right on the edge of Laos there. And we cut right on around the edge of that mountain, and then came back around this way to get back to Quang Tri.
Bob, you need to, somebody can record that, you need to, if you wouldn't mind, go back over, if you wouldn't mind, while he can record this, go back over the sequence of that, because he wasn't, the way you
From my standpoint,
From your standpoint.
From my standpoint, in the back seat, I don't even remember if we picked anybody else up that day. It was just that one patrol.
He picked you up. You were out there on the mountain too?
No. I was flying with him.
Yeah.
And
Why were you in the aircraft?
well, I had one patrol that had been out for 10 days and 9 nights. The monsoon winds
he was in
just
charge.
disallowed anybody.
You were
from
going to
flying.
get your guys.
They disallowed anybody from flying to pick these guys up. They were out for 10 days and 9 nights. They're supposed to be out for 5 days and 4 nights. And what was going on, and he picked up on it somehow, was the patrol leader kept giving him forward azimuths rather than a back azimuth so that he could come into it. You remember that?
I remember that. Yeah.
And then when we were going up the backside of that mountain, you're talking about, slopes like this, and he's got this aircraft level, but he's got the collective up on the air, and he's going up this thing until he hit the whiteout. When he hit the whiteout, he did a 180-degree turn, a half circle turn like this, and when he did, the engine went out on him, and the aircraft rolled over on its left side.
RPM, I recall, but we didn't have an engine failure, but we started drooping rotor RPM.
It sounded like to me. Of course, I don't hear well anyway,
Yeah.
but I didn't hear anything whopping air. Like you can usually hear the helicopters flying, you hear the bat, 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 whop, whop, whop.
When the noise
There
stops,
wasn't
that's when
nothing
you start
happening.
worrying, isn't it?
Uh-huh.
When the noise stops, that's when you worry.
That's what I was. I was. But that confounded thing rolled over on its left side, and we had just topped off with JP4.3, I think. And when that thing rolled over on its left side, I was looking at the ground and had one of those millisecond thoughts that I'm not even going to know this when it hits the ground. We're all just going to be crispy critters here in a couple of seconds. And I don't know how he did it. That's what I wanted to ask him. Maybe he can tell me right now. The nose went down. The aircraft turned about a quarter turn, and I could hear that engine winding back up, and it sounded like a tinker toy. And all of a sudden, those blades started slapping the air, and he got that thing level, and we went down that thing like 60. And pretty soon you could see the sunlight. We were coming out of that kind of a haze into the sunlight down there. The hill was kind of round like this as he came down, and just about before he got to the bottom of the thing, he turned and looked at that lieutenant. He didn't give a laugh for not watching the instruments. He said, well, I'm flying this thing, you watch the instruments. And then when he came around the mountain, he went out this way, and then he turned back. He says, I think I know where he's at, and he turned back towards that mountain, and that's when that cloud covered it completely except for a horizontal. It just looked like someone drew a straight line across there with the clouds were. He was coming right into the cloud line, and all of a sudden he turned away like this, did a 180 away from the cloud line, and he looked back at me, and this is exactly what he said: Top, I'm going home in 2 days, I can't go into that shit. That's exactly what he said. And I said, for whatever stupid reason, I copped the plea on him. I said, Chief, I had to lean forward to see the name on the back of his helmet. That was CWO4 White. And I said, Chief, I got some kids up in that mountain, been out there 10 days and 9 nights. They're only supposed to be out there 5 days and 4 nights. And they're out of everything except that water to surround them and a few rounds of ammunition. They've been
The
out
water
of
was
food.
dripping off
They're
those
out of
leaves.
food, And he turned that thing a 180 again and came right back into that tree line. You couldn't see anything on the mountain. You were just looking at a cloud. He came right into the cloud, upended the helicopter like this, and used the blades, the downwash from the blades, and looking right out that nose bubble. He's going from treetop to treetop. And it was incredible because the cloud was inside the aircraft, and I couldn't see him a couple of times sitting right in front of me. I couldn't see the door gunners right here. Couldn't see the co-pilot. That happened a couple of times. And then I'm looking out through the nose bubble at what he's looking at, and he's just going with the nose bubble treetop to treetop, And it never entered my mind, I'm sure it did his because he's a pilot. As far as those blades reach out, we could have taken a blade strike at any time going up or coming down. If we did, it would have been all over for everybody. And when he broke out on top of that ridge, it was, I don't know if it was a Razorback ridge or not, but there was a footpath about a foot wide on the top of that thing. And Sergeant Miranda, whoever was talking on the radio, was giving him forward magnetic azimuths. So he gave him an azimuth that was a forward azimuth, and he did I guess a pedal turn to the right and started following that real slow, putting along that ridge like this. And all of a sudden the ridge dropped off just like my knee here, and we went right off into that cloud. Nothing, just we're surrounded by white. He did another 180 and he found that ridge. I was glad to see the ground again myself. He found that ridge and came putting down that ridge, and all of a sudden the guys hollered on the radio, turn left, turn left. And I looked out the door through the jungle and I could see the guys. They popped purple smoke out there. They're probably about 30, 40 yards away out there. And he kept putting, and there was an opening there, and he did a pedal turn into that, and it came with a 3-foot hover, and I started pulling the guys on board. And as I pulled them on board, they were so happy to be getting off that mountain after 10 days in monsoon rain. They're beating him and his co-pilot on the head. They're pounding him on the back. You know, they're happy as hogs and sloppy. They're picked up, you know. And I finally had to get forward and grab him because, you know, I'm watching the co-pilot like this get beat. And I reached forward and I grabbed all these guys and pulled them back. I said, for Christ's sake, get off me. We'll never get off this mountain. And looking straight out, we could probably see straight ahead about maybe 40, 50 feet. And then it was all just white, you know, just white fog out there at the cloud. And that's when I happened to look up, and I had kind of a sinking feeling because we were underneath canopy, just like all the treetops had grown together. And I thought, Jesus, I wonder if he's going to fly out that white cloud or what he's going to do. And I guess you were talking to your gunners, getting that clear left, clear right stuff like I've heard the pilots do sometimes. But he started to back the helicopter up. He got to that trail, he did a pedal turn, he stopped, real slow down the ridge again. And I've said this to several people, you must have picked a reference point when you came up that mountain. You must have, because you putted down there for a certain way, and I was thinking to myself, I wonder how the hell he's going to get out of here. And all of a sudden he stopped, he did a right pedal turn and stood it on its nose, and then we went treetop to treetop back down that mountain. I mean, we're all sitting there with, you know, gravity pulling all of us forward. We're holding on to whatever we can get a hold of there, you know, to keep from falling forward in the aircraft. And he's going down treetop to treetop to treetop, and directly we broke out of that straight line of cloud right out into the sunlight. And he went down a little ways and started to pull pitch and come up like this, and all those other monkeys in flying hell. I think somebody was making an insertion at CA that day, and these other guys come piling out of the clouds in a daisy chain flying up there, and he turned north. You said we were right along the ocean border. He turned north and then up towards the rock pile and back towards Quang Tree. He told me today that he had invited us over for a beer. I never heard it. I was probably still too scared. But the amazing thing is Randy White, who was one of my NCOs in the Ranger Company, through the Aviators Association, managed to contact his co-pilot, that second lieutenant that day. That guy went on to become a U.S. Air Force fighter pilot later on. And I had told Randy this story about this incredible flying I did with this guy named Chief Warrant Officer White, you know. I said, I've never flown with anybody that flew like that. I don't know how the guy saved the aircraft and us that day, you know, from crashing. And he got the thing restarted and got us the hell out of there. And damned if Randy didn't find this guy through the Helicopter Pilots Association. And that guy told him the identical story. He didn't tell him the part about screwing up and not reading the instruments. He told him the part about going up through the cloud. That's the only thing. He didn't want to tell the part we got his butt chewed by Bob White. And he was gnawing on him pretty bad, too. And he didn't cuss. If it wasn't me, I'd have been cussing him. But he used the exact same term I did about when you started up into those clouds. I had told Randy, I said it was exciting. It was dangerous, but it was really exciting to be doing something that was obviously crazy as hell, strange, flying blind, if you will. And that doggone co-pilot of his used the exact same term, that it was exciting. And I thought that was very unique that two of us looked at that from that same perspective, But I would like to have put him in for Distinguished Flying Cross, but I was scared to death that he'd be put before a flight evaluation board if they found about him going up in a cloud like that. And he knows it better than I do. In Vietnam, you either got decorated or you went before a flight evaluation board and got thrown off a flight status.
What do you think in between?
Is that right? So, I don't know, maybe we can still do it. They were awarding guys medals of honor for World War II.
Exactly.
Maybe we get that, get a hold of that Winky Dink and have him forget about the cloud pilot story. Just tell about the recovery of that thing. How did you get that thing started again? That's what I want to know.
I don't know. I think we had a little droop in rotor RPM. I don't think the engine actually quit. I would definitely remember that.
Well, I'm sure the blade was still turning, but I didn't hear any engine.
No, we had a droop in RPM or something, but,
So you said to him that you lost 800 pounds of torque and something in RPMs, 1,400, 1,200, 1,600, 1,800, 24,
I don't remember the
You
numbers.
told him some high number of RPMs.
But I do remember the mission, and I remember, I've told people every year, I continued flying in the reserves for 24 more years after I got off active duty. So I had altogether almost 28 years of service in. But I look back and I tell people I did some stuff in Vietnam that I would never dream of doing again in my whole life. And every time I tell them that, I think about this one mission. And
Last Friday I thought about this thing.
And I tell you, I know that if I hadn't prayed about this before we went up in that suit, we wouldn't have come out of it.
And you volunteered for this mission.
Yeah, I mean,
Last Friday
Nobody
I
else
thought
would
about that thing,
volunteer.
and I thought, why did I ask him to go up into that cloud?
well, I remember this. I remember the guys had been up there for about 10 days, and they were on 5 days rations. They didn't have any water to drink for 4 days, no food for 5 days. Every day, units had tried to go up there and get them out, and no one could.
Monsoon rains kept us out,
And they called us and asked us if we'd give it a try, and I said, well, we would always give it a shot. If we can't make it, we can't make it. But you're not going to get anything accomplished if you don't try. So we were just, I think, by the grace of God, we were able to get up there and get the job done.
What these folks aren't understanding too is the fact that when a pilot loses his horizon, most of them panic. And he didn't panic. He went off, in the whiteout. He spun it around to get away from that so he could get some horizon back on the one side of the mountain. But when he went up in that doggone thing and we flew off that ridge into that cloud, man, there wasn't nothing there but a cloud.
Oh, I'll never forget that moment.
That was 360. This way. Nothing but a cloud. And I was just cool as could be. He brought that booger around.
Well, I was getting.
I saw that ridge coming up and I said, good Lord, I'm glad he found that thing.
Well, I was already pulling pitch to climb on up through it vertically and go on instruments and just make an instrument departure. When one tree limb caught my eye and I focused in on that tree and moved in toward it
Right back on that
and
ridge.
recovered right back where we
Right back on
were.
that ridge.
But I tell you this, you thought I had my markers placed. I went up on the mountain from the north side heading south, and they were up on the highest point of the mountain. But when we came out, I could have sworn I had turned around and was trying to come back out the same way I came in, and we ended up on the other side of the mountain. That's how turned around I was. So, when we broke out into daylight, that's why I was momentarily disoriented. I thought, wait a minute, what's wrong with this picture? But all I could do is just, thank God that we came out of it alive.
And then, like you say, as far as going in front of the flight evaluation board,
You didn't have time to make rational decisions.
When he came back and
And then he told me that, and I copped that plea on him. And don't ask me why, because it was kind of stupid. He went up into that thing and defied every safety rule here in the world. Flying up into that stuff, and it worked. The boldest plans always seem to work. They always seem to work on the tactical. If you're not afraid to take a risk, you can usually come out smelling like a rose. But of all the flying I've done, I've never flown with anybody that was able to do what he did on the other side of that mountain, man, I tell you.
Yeah, you mentioned in the letter
I
you'd
thought
never
we
even
were
seen
dead.
anything of Holly.
No doubt in my mind, we were dead.
Yeah, you said even in a Hollywood movie, they don't make things like that.
John Wayne did.
It was all,
John Wayne did.
it was all a bunch of fake
But
scenery.
he's a celluloid hero. And he'll probably be the first one to say there are countless acts of heroism that go unnoticed and unrecorded all over the military and all areas of the military. And
That's right.
certainly the pilots, if you just understood the record just of the 2nd and 17th CAV, the numbers of pilots that were shot out of the air in any given month, in any 30-day period, you'd be astounded. We lost an awful lot of pilots there.
Yeah, right after I left, half my unit was shot down and killed. Within 3 months after I left.
Sure. That's,
And we were 2nd 17th. When I picked you up, we were F troops, 2nd 17th. It was a provisional troop. It didn't last but about 6 months. But they just had a need for more CAV missions, and so they redesignated the Alpha Company 101st Aviation Battalion as a CAV troop for an interim period. And it was one of the shortest lived units certainly in the history of Vietnam, and one of the shortest lived units in the history of the U.S. Army. And then 6 months later they reverted back. No, it wasn't even 6 months. It was like 5 months. They reverted back to Alpha Company 101.
And didn't you call it the funny
Yeah,
troop?
we call ourselves Funny Troop. Because here we spend half of that time just training to try to learn how to do these CAV missions. The tactics of it was totally different from what we've been, because we've been a combat assault unit, and we had different method of operation. So we call ourselves Funny Troop. But it was fun while it lasted. Vietnam's a great place to visit, but I sure wouldn't want to live there.
Oh, yeah.
you will do some of the gunship policy. Y'all see all the instruments they have to contend with there? That's what his co-pilot was supposed to be watching when he was flying up that mountain that day. And he couldn't fly. He's got enough to do flying that aircraft in that type of terrain, especially, and with the type of air density and all the other things you have to contend with. And that the young lieutenant, the brand new second lieutenant, I think he was straight out of Fort Rucker, wasn't he?
Probably was.
He was not watching the instruments, which is what caused Bob's aircraft to stall and roll over on. And I tell you, if you just look at the control panel there, there's a lot more on a 747, there's a lot more on a C-141, but those are different type of aircraft. They're high performance aircraft. This is a helicopter, and it's a hell of a tricky thing to fly to start with. And when he was flying in that kind of air density, that type of climate, that type of low visibility, and climbing level at about a 45-degree angle on a 70-degree slope. And then that bird went out on him and lost its engine. I just got to tell the whole family that his ability to recover that aircraft that day with a stalled engine was just incredible. It was the most incredible flying I've ever seen anybody do. He did it. I don't know how. I still want to ask him some questions, so I want to have breakfast with him tomorrow morning over Owens over there. And I want to ask you some questions about some of the things you did. I'm not talking about going in the cloud. I'm talking about the other side of the mountain where I almost lost that bird because the lieutenant wasn't watching the doggone instruments there. Hey, those are my people.
These are your guys right here.
Yeah.
These are Rangers
Those are
right
my
here.
people right there.
Uh-huh.
And then in the middle is Calvin Duncan. I haven't been able to find that boy. The blonde-headed guy on the right is a shaking big staff stone. He's a carpenter now. I think that guy in the back with the hat on facing to the left is that Canadian constable I was talking about.
Uh-huh.
He was down in the corner there.
That's about what you saw from your vantage point, sitting in the jump seat. We're heading home.